Hi there, it's Joe the Adventuring Irishman bringing you some information about equipment that maybe you should buy for sea kayaking. Over the past year, I've been using some new paddles and getting to grips with them, so I thought I'd spend some time now that the winter's come in telling you a little bit about the quivers that I use. Of course, I'm going to publish a lot of different videos about some of the kit that I use, but if you've noticed anything in the videos that you'd like me to talk about specifically, say for instance buoyancy aids or tow lines, dry suits, whatever it may be, do give me a shout. I've got some top tips videos coming out soon as well. Without further ado, let's have a look at the first paddle that I'm using. So over the last year, I have been using the Cobra Sunset, which is quite a cool paddle. I became aware of these from the whitewater paddles that I use. I use the Scorpion, which is and the Rebel, which are whitewater paddles in my whitewater paddling, and I got those from Above and Below in London. Really good kayak shops. You look Matt up, and Matt can help you out with those bits of gear that you need. I was very interested in some of the paddles they do, and he managed to get me two versions. Number one, of course, being the Sunset. There's some really good things about this paddle. There's a few things that I don't like, but I'll talk about those a little bit later. But overall, the Sunset is a slightly longer, broader blade than most you might see on a fiberglass sort of sea kayaking design. You could couple it or twin it against potentially the Werner Schöne. The Werner Schöne, of course, is maybe a little bit differently profiled blade. Designed specifically for a high angle paddling edge. Now the Sunset kind of hits a middle point. It can be a high angle blade all the way, but it can also settle as a low angle blade and it has this sort of broader profile. And with the Neolix Sunset, you kind of definitely get the feeling it's for cruising. More on that later on. So the blade is actually really well designed. I like the really tough fiberglass blade. It's got a really good carbon fiber shaft, and of course I've gone for the two-piece. So it uses the T8, I believe it's called, which is from a Kayak Sport joining system, which of course holds everything together quite nicely out at sea. And because it's plastic, this is the best thing about this joining. Because it's plastic with only one slightly metal moving part, it doesn't corrode as readily with the salt water, and therefore it doesn't need much maintenance, just the basics. It comes with the other half of the shaft. It has a measurement on there, which I quite like. I really like this measurement format that they've got in there. It's kind of bezeled in. German technology at its best. So you can definitely get your adjustments down to a fine T, especially when you're looking at feather or length. And of course, most shafts come at a set measurement. These are 215s as a standard. I generally paddle them at 220, so they're slightly extended. Although I do paddle them at 215 at quieter times of the year when I'm rock hopping or surfing. It's a really robust system. I find it really comfortable to paddle with. And as a blade, I think it's absolutely impeccable. Really, really good design, really stiff carbon fiber. And I've had this rock hopping as well as distance paddling, and I really like it. The profile of the blade has this lovely scoop to it, but what's really interesting is it's quite thin along the middle of the blade, but at the top they've thickened it. Now in weight comparison, when you weigh this alongside the Schöne, it is a slightly heavier blade, and at first that bugged me. Now I'll come back to that later. Interesting enough, when you look at the website for Cobra, it doesn't give you much description of this blade. I don't know whether Cobra just don't think it's a great article and they kind of just throw it out there going, yeah, it's a blade. But actually I think there's a lot more to it. It does mention it has a foam core. I find some flotation in it, and potentially there is a bit of a foam core in there. I'd have to cut it open to find out. But it does give a good amount of flotation, even though it's a heavyweight blade, in comparison to, say, for instance, the Schöne. But what I really like about it is because of that thickening on the edge, you can see it just balls out a little bit. This takes a bash. The Schöne that I had before, and I'll do a review on the Schöne that I have, I cracked it off quite a few little rocks and it ended up delaminating at the end. Even with light taps going through small rock gardens, even on light days. And I was quite worried about that delamination, and it kind of really bugged me. So when I decided to have a try at the Sunset, I thought it's going to be another fiberglass blade that's potentially going to do that. But they've really sealed the edge really well. It's taken a little bit of damage from scraping and scratching, but generally it's held up over a year of really quite tough usage. And it's quite robust. So in terms of just paddling, it's a great blade for, active paddling around the coast. Because it's slightly heavier, it's maybe not the best touring blade, but look out for the other review, which, if I have it up, I'll put it in this top corner, which is to do with the Passage, which is the EFC carbon fiber blade. Now, that's a touring blade, but I'll come back to that later. So the upsides to this blade, it's really sturdy, amazingly sturdy. It gives really good power transfer. I just find when I put it in, there's no flutter to it. It just goes. It just is a really nice power transfer. The very fact that I can use it majority of the time, I use it with quite a high angle stroke, but I can also relax into a low angle stroke when I need to. It connects well. I do find sometimes that when I'm sort of using it, I tire quicker than when I'm using lighter weight blades. But again, if I'm using this around coastlines, I'm generally going from quite relaxed to quite speedy paddling, popping around, rock gardens and so forth. So I tend to find that this robustness is a payoff. It's a good trade in comparison to lightweight when I'm dealing with rocks and rocky places. They're the good sides. There's only two downsides to this blade. One I've kind of mentioned, which is the weight. If it's got that foam core in there, that's nice. That makes it really a good flotation. It rolls really nicely. I like that. But it is slightly heavier, and it's hard to sell that to people. And it's one of the things I've tried to sort of put on to people, and they've tried it in comparison to, say, for instance, the Shuna. And people tend to go for lighter weight because they paddle all the time. So I tend to find that people will go, it's a bit of a heavy blade, and they don't like it that way. But this is where I kind of like it because I know it's robust, and in comparison to my Shuna, that's the sales point that I tend to put to people, is that actually, although it is a heavier blade, it's heavier weight in terms of robust. It really will cope with it, and I've dinged these blades off quite a lot of stuff. Big rock gardens, smashing into stuff on the north coast of Ireland and around the place, and they're fairly good. They've got a fairly good profile. You can see there's not much damage there. So I'm quite impressed with that. In fact, there was one point where I was doing a rocky landing and I literally threw these blades up onto the rock that I was landing on, as I'd forgotten to stow my blade, and I was like, flick it. And I thought, as soon as it hit the rock, I thought, oh, there's going to be a bit of damage. There was not even a scratch, literally not even a scratch. So they are very much worth that. Last downside, and it's written on the blade. The name Sunset doesn't lend itself to really rough coastal paddling in sea kayaking. It sort of makes me think of someone out in a Sun Dolphin or something ridiculous like that, or a little 12-foot kayak pootling around the lake going, watching the sunset with a margarita in their hands. It really doesn't make me think of paddling. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great paddle, but if they named it like the Kraken, now that's a badass name. It really would sell this blade, because it is a bit of a beast. It comes back asking for more, and it's really powerful. It's a great blade. It's built for rah. But Sunset just doesn't do it for me. Maybe at Cobra they had a reason for this. Maybe their vision for this blade was, we'll design something that's specifically for that touring lake paddler that's pootling around watching the sunset. And what they inadvertently designed and made was a badass hardcore coastal sea kayaking blade. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm hoping that that's the way they sort of designed this to be hardcore by accident, or maybe they did. I know that Cobra have a new blade coming out. It's an AFC blade, and they've named it, and it's kind of cool. And I can't wait to try it. And they've got another blade called the Poseidon that's really cool, and I'll be reviewing that in the future. And I've got the Passage, which is their touring style blade, which is still really cool. And the Passage still lends itself, because it's a touring blade. The name bites. It's nice. That doesn't bite. It just, you tell people what paddle you're using in the day. I'm using the Shuna or the Corey Vreck, and they go, wow, that's pretty cool. Nice blade. When you try and say, I'm using the Sunset, yeah, it doesn't hit. So if anyone from Cobra is watching, maybe a rename. It doesn't really need a redesign because it's an awesome blade, but maybe a rename, maybe something a bit powerful, maybe something that's going to sell and pop. That will definitely get people's attention. That's my thought. But that's the only downside to this blade. I've paddled with loads of different kayak blades, and I come back going, all right. These have become my go-to. I literally paddle them all the time. And having paddled with Werner and Celtic and all sorts of other blades, Lendl, I love these. I just love the feel of them. They're great. They're well balanced. They're really controlled. They're powerful. They give me everything I need in a quiver of blade. But the name just bites. But other than that, I would say if you're looking for an alternative blade, if you're sick of the whole Werner trap that sea kayakers tend to get themselves into, and you're keen to get something unique and different for sea kayaking and for coastal touring, rock hopping and bashing around the place, if you want something that's definitely robust and is going to take the damage, I would definitely suggest getting your hands on a set of Cobras. Where can you pick them up? Well, you can pick them up from several places across the globe, anywhere that's a Cobra supplier. If you check out Cobra's website, they will let you know. If you're based in the UK and you want to get your hands on a Cobra blade, then Above and Below are the key supplier in the UK, and I believe Flow Kayaks are the secondary supplier, so they can get their hands on it too. Worth going and demoing and trying out. I know Matt down at Lee Valley has loads of demos. He sells quite a lot of Cobra paddles to whitewater paddlers, so he has a good selection of their touring blades as well. So it'd be a good idea to go down and see Matt and get yourself the opportunity to try out the Cobra. So that's my review of the Cobra Kraken. Okay, it's the Cobra Sunset, but it should be called the Kraken. If you'd like to find out more about Cobra blades, visit their website, which is in the link below. It translates in English and German. If you're in England, UK, and you want to try out one of these blades, visit Above and Below at Lee Valley. I'm sure Matt can help you out having a go. If you've got questions, stick it in the comments below and I'll see what I can answer for you. If you like this video and you want to share it with other people who are looking for blades, make sure you like and share. Most importantly of all, if you'd like to know more about other Cobra blades, other reviews and other blades that I've tried, hit the subscribe there because I'll have some more reviews coming up in the next few weeks. For the meantime, stay safe, keep paddling, guys.